I think one of the key reasons that we formed the coalition was really, at the base of it, was to build relationships across the region. So lots of us were working on initiatives in multiple communities through our jobs, brought us into different places. But a lot of our elected officials, community leaders, business leaders in each of the singular communities were working on things in their communities and didn't know that their counterparts in just a half hour away were working on some of the same things for their town. And by creating the coalition, created a forum where these folks could get to know each other, build some trust, and hopefully bring together the brainpower that we had across all 4 counties to work on things together.
One of the things about bringing us together in Southwest Indiana, it's kind of like Indiana basketball. You have your teams, and each one's from a different high school, and everybody's extremely competitive. And what we needed to do was to bring all those teams together and get the best of the best.
Some of the key initiatives at the time were simply to create kind of a marketing presence for the region itself. The marketing presence was such that all the economic development entities had different things that they were doing, but nobody had a real budget for trying to market the region as a whole.
Our communities became exposed to regionalism by taking inner-city leadership visits to other communities within the Midwest, and we started seeing very early on in those visits that regionalism was becoming the new wave of how people are doing business. And national, international site selectors, they want to hear from the region, not from individual towns, not from individual counties, but a regional footprint. Why? Your workforce comes from the region, not from a little town.
You know, as we thought about economic development, it really is a regional enterprise. It's not just city by city or county by county. And again, we didn't want to compete with ourselves. We wanted to really work together to drive a better place to live. So, and it became very clear that the state was encouraging regionalization and that the state was looking for regions to work together rather than compete. And we were amongst the first of regional economic development groups to form, and I think it really helped us a lot with the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, and it really showed to the state that we were willing to work together, and I think it was a very positive step forward.
That was really an important way of bringing all these 4 counties together. They have similar interests in that we're all in southwestern Indiana. We all benefit when an economic development project lands in one of those 4 counties. But they're also very different. Some are more agriculturally based, others are heavy industry, another is a bedroom community of Evansville. So very different needs, but we have to make sure that we are working together in a regional fashion, and that's why I think the coalition has been so incredibly important and very successful today.
The reception was, well, of course, yeah, we already had regionalized Chamber of Commerce, we already had regionalized United Way, other charitable organizations. Have we regionalized enough? No, we haven't. We still have, we had a chart that had all kinds of different donuts for different organizations that had similar functions. We probably still have too much of that, and most regions do, but we've begun that process of conserving our resources, using them in a more efficient and cost-effective way. And so people, particularly the stakeholders, those who invest in this, I mean, they were happy to see that cost-effectiveness put in place and that unified voice, because they were already doing it in their own companies.
Well, one of the famous stories is we had the bubble chart. We had multiple bubbles, and urban legend says there's 90,000 bubbles at one time, but the reality is we're probably at 20-some bubbles. So the first thing we had to do is reduce the bubbles. We had to say, what organizations can we blend in, what organizations don't exist, need to exist. So that was really one of the first steps we had to do. The second was to get buy-in, because as you eliminate organizations, you had to make sure that the folks that were affected bought into the new model. And a lot of communication, a lot of telling the message, saying, here's why we're doing this, this is why it's important. We brought in an outside consultant to help us. Adam Prager was brought in, and Adam kind of laid out a game plan and a roadmap for success and taught us on things to do. But really the biggest thing we had to do was just communicate, re-communicate, and just continue to sell what we were trying to accomplish, and I think it really helped us a lot.
Part of what we do is community development, and that's kind of interesting because community development was always sort of a separate discipline. You had community development that helped communities build capacity. You had economic development that helped bring in new investment, whether it be from existing companies or companies looking at the region for the first time. We've blended both into one organization, and that allows us to look very strategic as that if a community needs to move in a direction, they have some aspirational goals of where they'd like to be, determining what are the gaps that they have to fill. And on the community development side, we help determine those gaps and we help them find funding in order to do such. We have numerous examples throughout our region, but one great example is in the waterfront of Mount Vernon. There were some old grain silos that had existed for decades and blocking a big portion of the Ohio River bend from downtown Main Street in Mount Vernon. We helped them secure funding to tear those down, and now they have a waterfront where there's been nearly $10 million of new investment in this small community and has one of the really best views of the Ohio River along the Ohio River.
Just about anyone who was involved in forming the coalition would say it's been a success, and I think you can judge the success by a couple of standards. One, I think you have to look at how well everyone cooperates now at a regional level. When we were being formed, there was all this, okay, will this community or that community be the top dog? Will we be able to leave our community collective egos at the door for the betterment of the region? And I think without fail, our region has done that. We have coalesced around each other for the greater good. And as a result, I think you can look at the $2.8 billion worth of investment that the coalition has helped attract to this region. And I'd say, yes, we've been quite successful on both fronts.
Prime example for Posey County, we've had some small successes. We've had some area industries that have done some expansion as a result of work with the coalition. We've received quite a few community development grants that have really helped with our infrastructure all over Posey County. And our largest success is our incoming Midwest fertilizer plant. Obviously, all those people who are coming in will not all be living in Posey County, so they will be living in the other counties. They'll be buying vehicles and groceries and cars and paying taxes and state taxes.
I think as the coalition moves to the future, the vision may be continuing to grow our footprint just a little bit, but we can't do that until we continue to show people right here in this region the value of acting together as a cohesive unit.
We focus in economic development an inordinate amount of time on trying to build a better climate for business. What we really focus little on is building a better climate for people. And the coalition is involved with our partners of creating a better environment for our region so that people would want to work here, would want to live here, would want to play here, would want to raise their children here. And that's probably a primary difference between us and other economic development organizations, is that we focus on what really matters for us to build a better community.